Hey there, you looking kinda cute. Don't forget to subscribe and check out my other socials for more. Enjoy. The rest of the evening passed without incident, but Marina couldn't shake the lingering unease that had settled over her. As she bid goodbye to Amy and David, promising to get together again soon, she felt a strange sense of relief. She loved her sister dearly, but sometimes being around Amy made her feel incomplete somehow, as if there was some fundamental difference between them that she couldn't quite grasp. Later that night, as Marina lay in bed staring at the ceiling, her mind refused to quiet. She kept replaying moments from the evening, the easy affection between Amy and David, the proud look in Evelyn's eyes as she watched her daughters, the nagging feeling that something was missing. With a sigh, Marina rolled over, burying her face in her pillow. It was late, and she had a class full of energetic third graders to face in the morning. Whatever was going on in her head, it would have to wait. She was Marina Evans, elementary school teacher's daughter, sister. That was enough. It had to be enough. But as she drifted off to sleep, a small part of her couldn't help but wonder, was it really? The next few weeks passed in a blur of routine, school days filled with eager young minds, evenings spent grading papers or preparing lessons. Marina threw herself into her work with renewed vigor, as if by focusing on her students she could drown out the nagging questions that had been plaguing her since the dinner with Amy and David. It was on a particularly hectic Friday afternoon that Daniel, the art teacher, appeared in her doorway once again. Marina was in the midst of cleaning up after a particularly messy science experiment involving baking soda volcanoes, her hair escaping its ponytail in frizzy tendrils. "Looks like I missed all the excitement," Daniel said with a grin, taking in the chaos of the classroom. Marina looked up, blowing a stray hair out of her face. "Oh, you have no idea. I think I'll be finding baking soda in odd places for weeks." Daniel chuckled, then seemed to steel himself. "Listen, Marina, I was wondering if maybe you'd like to grab coffee sometime? Outside of school, I mean." The invitation caught Marina off guard. She stood frozen for a moment, a damp cloth still in her hand, as her mind raced. Part of her wanted to say yes. Daniel was kind, attractive, and they seemed to get along well. But another part, a deeper, more insistent part, was screaming at her to decline. "Oh, she stammered, feeling her cheeks grow warm. "That's really nice of you to ask, Daniel, but I don't think that would be a good idea. I'm not really dating right now." Daniel's smile faltered slightly, but he nodded, his expression understanding. "No problem. I hope I didn't make you uncomfortable." "No, not at all," Marina assured him quickly. "I'm flattered, really. It's complicated." After Daniel left, Marina sank into her chair, her mind whirling. Why had she turned him down? It was just coffee, after all. But the idea of it, of potentially starting something romantic, filled her with a strange, almost visceral dread. That evening, unable to shake her unsettled feelings, Marina found herself driving to her mother's house. Evelyn looked surprised when she opened the door, but quickly ushered Marina inside. "Sweetheart, is everything okay?" Evelyn asked, her brow furrowed with concern. Marina sank onto the familiar living room couch, running her hands through her hair. "I don't know, Mom. I feel so confused lately." Evelyn sat beside her, placing a comforting hand on Marina's knee. "Confused about what, exactly?" The words came tumbling out then, all the doubts and questions that had been building up. Marina told her mother about turning down Daniel, about the strange disconnect she felt when thinking about relationships, about the nagging feeling that something wasn't quite right. "I just don't understand why I feel this way," Marina finished, her voice barely above a whisper. "Why can't I be normal, like Amy? Why does the idea of dating make me feel so wrong?" Evelyn was quiet for a long moment, her face unreadable. When she finally spoke, her voice was gentle but firm. "Marina, sweetheart, there's no such thing as normal. Everyone's path is different. If you're not interested in dating right now, or ever, that's perfectly okay. Marina shook her head, frustration building. But that's just it. I don't know what I want. Sometimes I think I might want a relationship, but then when the opportunity arises, I panic. It's like there's a part of me that's missing or locked away somewhere. Does that make any sense? A strange expression flitted across Evelyn's face. Was it guilt? Fear? But it was gone so quickly Marina thought she must have imagined it. I think, Evelyn said slowly, that maybe you're putting too much pressure on yourself. You're young, Marina. You have plenty of time to figure things out, and if you never do, if you decide that you're happiest on your own, that's okay too. Marina nodded, feeling some of the tension leave her body. Her mother's words made sense, even if they didn't entirely quell the unease in her heart. Thanks, Mom, she said softly. I don't know what I'd do without you. As Evelyn pulled her into a hug, Marina closed her eyes, breathing in the familiar scent of her mother's perfume. For a moment, she felt safe, anchored. But somewhere deep inside, a small voice whispered that there was more to the story, more that she couldn't quite remember, more that she needed to understand. The weeks that followed were a strange mix of normalcy and underlying tension for Marina. On the surface, life continued as usual. She taught her classes, graded papers, and went about her daily routines. But beneath it all, there was a constant, nagging feeling that something wasn't quite right. She found herself studying her reflection more often, searching her own face for something. What exactly, she wasn't sure. Sometimes, out of the corner of her eye, she thought she caught a glimpse of someone else looking back at her from the mirror. Someone older, masculine. But when she turned to look directly, it was always just her own familiar features staring back. These moments left her feeling shaken and disoriented. Was she losing her mind? Should she talk to someone? A therapist, maybe? But every time she considered it, something held her back. A vague, inexplicable fear that digging too deep might unearth something she wasn't prepared to face. It was during this tumultuous time that Amy called with some news. I'm engaged! Her sister's excited voice came through the phone. David proposed last night. We're thinking of a spring wedding. You'll be my maid of honor, of course. Marina felt a genuine smile spread across her face, momentarily pushing aside her inner turmoil. Oh, Amy, that's wonderful. Of course I'll be your maid of honor. I'm so happy for you. As Amy chattered on about proposal details and preliminary wedding plans, Marina found herself swept up in her sister's excitement. This was good, she told herself. This was normal. Focusing on Amy's happiness, on the joy of planning a wedding, might be just what she needed to shake off the strange feelings that had been plaguing her. But as the call ended and Marina set down her phone, that familiar unease crept back in. She was truly happy for Amy, but there was also a sense of distance, as if she were watching her sister's life unfold from behind a pane of glass, unable to fully connect or participate. That night, Marina had a dream. In it, she was standing in front of a full-length mirror, but the reflection wasn't her own. Instead, she saw a man, tall with graying hair and familiar green eyes. He reached out, his hand pressing against the glass, and Marina found herself mirroring the action. As their palms met, separated only by the mirror's surface, she felt a jolt of recognition. "Who are you?" she asked, her voice echoing strangely in the dream space. The man's lips moved, but no sound came out. He seemed to be trying to tell her something important, his eyes pleading. Marina leaned closer, straining to hear, but the mirror began to fog over, obscuring the man's face. She woke with a start, her heart pounding. The dream clung to her, vivid and unsettling. Who was that man? Why had he seemed so familiar? And why did she have the overwhelming feeling that she had forgotten something crucial? Unable to shake off the dream's lingering effects, Marina decided to skip her usual morning routine and head straight to her mother's house. It was Saturday, and she knew Evelyn would be home. Maybe talking it through would help make sense of things. When she arrived, Evelyn was in the garden, pruning her beloved rose bushes. She looked up as Marina approached, her smile fading as she took in her daughter's troubled expression. "Marina, what's wrong, sweetheart?" Marina sank onto a nearby bench, running her hands through her hair. "Mom, I had this dream. It was so vivid, so real. There was a man in a mirror, and he was trying to tell me something. I felt like I knew him, but I couldn't place him. And now I can't shake this feeling that I'm forgetting something important." Evelyn's face had gone pale, her pruning shears frozen in midair. For a moment, she looked afraid. But then she seemed to collect herself, setting down the shears and moving to sit beside Marina. "Dreams can be strange things," Evelyn said, her voice carefully neutral. "Our minds process all sorts of information while we sleep. It doesn't necessarily mean anything." But Marina shook her head, frustration building. "No, this was different. It felt real, Mom, and it's not just the dream. I've been feeling off for weeks now. Like there's something just out of reach, something I should remember, but can't. What's happening to me?" Evelyn was quiet for a long moment, her eyes fixed on the rose bushes. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely above a whisper. "Marina, there's something I need to tell you. Something I should have told you a long time ago." Marina felt her heart begin to race. "What is it, Mom?" Evelyn took a deep breath, seeming to steel herself. "The truth is, I'm not your mother. Not biologically, at least. And Amy isn't really your sister." The world seemed to tilt on its axis as Marina struggled to process these words. What are you talking about? Of course you're my mother. Of course Amy's my sister. I remember growing up here. I remember." But even as she spoke, Marina felt a strange sensation washing over her. It was as if a veil was being lifted, revealing glimpses of another life, another identity. Evelyn reached out, taking Marina's hands in her own. "I'm so sorry, Marina. Or Martin. That's your real name, Martin Evans. You were my husband once." The floodgates opened then, memories rushing back in a dizzying torrent. Martin saw flashes of another life. A life as a man, as a father to Amy. The book, the magic, the desperate plan to retrieve it. And then, nothing. A blank space where the last 10 years should have been. "What did you do to me?" Martin whispered, his voice shaking. It was strange to hear it coming from Marina's lips, higher and softer than he remembered. Tears were streaming down Evelyn's face now. "I'm so sorry," she repeated. "You were going to use that book, that magic, against me. I couldn't let that happen, so I changed you, gave you a new life, new memories. I thought it would be better this way." Martin stood abruptly, his legs unsteady. The body he inhabited felt foreign now, wrong. "Better? You stole my life, Evelyn, my identity, my relationship with my daughter." "I know," Evelyn said, her voice breaking. "I know it was wrong, but you have to understand, I was scared. The power in that book, it was too much for any one person to have." Martin paced the garden, his mind reeling. Anger, confusion, and grief warred within him. He looked down at his hands, small, delicate, with neatly manicured nails. A stranger's hands, a woman's hands. "Can you change me back?" he asked, though he already suspected the answer. Evelyn shook her head slowly. "The spell, it's been too long. Your body, your very essence, has fully transformed. Reversing it now could be dangerous, maybe even fatal." Martin sank back onto the bench, his head in his hands. The world as he knew it had shattered, leaving him adrift in a sea of uncertainty. Who was he now? Martin or Marina? Man or woman? Father or sister? As the full weight of the situation settled over him, Martin felt a wave of exhaustion wash over him. There were so many questions, so many implications to consider. What would this mean for his relationship with Amy? for his job, his friends, his entire life. But for now, all he could do was sit there in the garden, surrounded by the sweet scent of roses, and try to come to terms with the fact that everything he thought he knew about himself had been a lie. Evelyn reached out tentatively, her hand hovering over Martin's shoulder. "I know this is a lot to take in," she said softly. "And I know you must hate me right now. But please believe me when I say that I never meant to hurt you. I thought I was protecting everyone." Martin looked up, meeting Evelyn's tear-filled eyes. A part of him wanted to lash out, to scream and rage against what she had done. But another part, the part that had lived as Marina for the past decade, understood the fear that had driven her actions. "I don't hate you," he said finally, his voice rough with emotion. "I don't know what I feel right now, but I do know that we have a lot to figure out." Martin sat in silence for several long moments. The gentle rustling of leaves in the garden seemed oddly loud in the stillness, a reminder of the ordinary world that continued on, oblivious to the upheaval of his entire existence. "The book," he said suddenly, turning to Evelyn. "Where is it now?" Evelyn hesitated, her fingers twisting nervously in her lap. It's locked away. In a safe deposit box at the bank. I couldn't bring myself to destroy it, but I couldn't risk anyone else getting their hands on it either." Martin nodded slowly, his gaze distant. "We need to get it, not to use it," he added quickly, seeing the alarm flash across Evelyn's face. "But to study it, to understand what was done to me. Maybe there's a way to undo this without risking my life." "Martin," Evelyn said softly, the name sounding strange on her lips after so many years. "Even if we could find a way, are you sure that's what you want? You have a life here, as Marina, friends, a career you love, a life built on lies," Martin interrupted, an edge of bitterness creeping into his voice. But then he sighed, running a hand through his long hair that still felt foreign even after a decade. "I don't know what I want, Evelyn. I don't even know who I am anymore." Just then, the sound of a car pulling into the driveway made them both freeze. Martin's heart began to race as he recognized the vehicle. It was Amy's. "Oh, God," he whispered, panic rising in his chest. "Amy, what do we tell her? How do I explain?" Evelyn reached out, gripping Martin's hand tightly. "We don't have to tell her anything right now, not until we figure things out. For now, just be Marina. Can you do that?" Martin wanted to protest, to insist on honesty, but he could hear Amy's footsteps approaching. With a quick nod to Evelyn, he took a deep breath, trying to slip back into the persona of Marina, a persona that now felt like an ill-fitting costume. "Mom? Marina, are you out here?" Amy's voice called out as she rounded the corner of the house. "We're in the garden, sweetie," Evelyn replied, her voice impressively steady. Amy appeared, a wide smile on her face. "I hope I'm not interrupting anything. I just couldn't wait to show you both the engagement ring in person." As Amy approached, her excitement palpable, Martin felt a surge of conflicting emotions. Love for his daughter warred with the knowledge that she now saw him as a sister. Pride in her happiness clashed with grief for the years of fatherhood he'd lost. "It's beautiful, Amy," he managed to say, hoping his voice didn't betray the turmoil within. "I'm so happy for you." Amy beamed, holding out her hand to display the sparkling diamond. "Thanks, I still can't believe it's real." "Oh, and Marina, I was hoping we could go dress shopping soon. I know it's early, but I just can't wait to start planning." Martin nodded, forcing a smile. "Of course, whenever you'd like." As Amy launched into animated chatter about potential wedding venues, Martin found himself studying her face, noting the features she'd inherited from him. Features that now, ironically, made them look more like sisters than father and daughter. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to check out my other socials if you want more wonderful content, early access, behind the scenes, and more. All links down below.